And after that comes everyone that makes the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation possible. To all of our members and donors, individual, corporate, special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, all of whom contribute to the cause of the foundation. We really do thank you for your generosity and support because without you, we would not be able to do what we do in support of poverty reduction in the Philippines through agribusiness and countryside development. The foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines. We are a member-supported nonprofit organization. Every 2 weeks, we strive to bring you new and interesting technologies that can be used in consideration for small agribusiness development in pursuit of rural development here in the country. So once again, good morning to everyone. I'm glad to see so many people bright and early. Hi, James. Good morning.
Morning. Hey.
Good to see you here. All right. Glad to see you bright and early this morning. Okay, so before we begin, and thanks to everyone for your patience, I'd like to ask our chairman, our chair, Mr. Ernie Ordonez, to please introduce our speaker for this morning. Ernie, please come in.
James, I'm so happy you're with us. I read your background, so let me say that after my brief introduction, I'd like the audience to have a personal relationship with you. So every speaker, before they start, we'd like them to give us brief background about themselves, say 5 minutes. Basically, what brought you into this particular activity, and after you do that, as you do your talk, we need the opportunity to get a hold of you from all over the world using vibrant, inexpensive communication. After your brief background, how you got into this, we'd like you to give us your phone number. And as you talk to us, we want you to keep in mind that our objective is really to spread the word. Whatever you say, we want to use it to benefit other people. That's why we call it countryside development. So, number one, brief background on yourself, about 3 to 5 minutes, how you got into this. Number two, give us your number. And number three, concentrate on talking to us, not like students, of course, we're all students, but on potential people who can expand your expertise to benefit our people. Okay, having said that, James, I said I was excited about introducing you because I saw you're doing two things. Number one, emerging technology. That's what we need for the audience's knowledge. Something historic happened. For the first time in history, our budget was increased by 40%, thanks to Senator Pangilinan. And more importantly, instead of going into dole outs like giving fertilizers and seeds, of course, they'll do some of that when necessary. The new undersecretary said that it's going to concentrate on technology, which is what our foundation wants. And James, you're going to give us some ideas on technology, in particular biochar technology. So James took his studies in America, and I'm so glad, though he's an American, he's taken permanent residence here. And basically, in reviewing his background, we found out, in addition to emerging technology, he's really interested in helping people. One aspect of his background is that he wants to develop potential in people. And that's probably why he's here in this country, contributing to our benefit. He's an expert in so many things. Basically, even though he's studied engineering and business, he's put his heart in technology and agriculture, which will help our people immensely. He has done a lot of work, and basically, he is talking about biochar. He's a member of the International Biochar Initiative. Other than that, his expertise, goes into so many different things: biomass utilization, agroforestry, and agriculture waste, soil health, environment, so many things. But today is going to concentrate on it. So basically, James, thank you for being with us and taking permanent residence here. We love that. You can really help us. And please give a few minutes so that we have a personal connection with you. Maybe how you got into this, your number, and when you talk to us. And remember to tell us, perhaps we can spread the word about your good work. Okay, James, please take it away.
Morning, Ernie. Thank you very much for that gracious. You didn't leave me much to say. You pretty much wrapped things up. But to remind you, we go back a long way together. I started attending ABCDF back when Mr. Laparelle was still active. And we would
Oh,
meet at the Polo Club and at Manila Golf. And so we go back a long ways together, and I've always appreciated your insights and connections. And I'm glad it's exciting to be here. You mentioned the reaching out 50 years ago, exactly today. I was living as in southern Africa and the edge of the Kalahari Desert. I spent 3 years as a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer. And even there, I was training mechanics to be machinists, steel fabricators. These were natives growing up in the bush with only a loincloth and barefoot. And we trained them over the course of 4 or 5 years to be world-class mechanics, machinists, auto body repairmen, and lightweight steel fabricators. Part of this training scheme also supported various other trades and crafts and skills, such as electrician, masons, brick making, carpentry, and a fairly sophisticated organic farm, depending upon large Southern Cross windmills, again, renewable energy, first time that had been done, and introducing rotational grazing in the Kalahari Desert. So this is a continuation of that in a way, not with we had the most successful development project I think that's ever been done. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to continue, but that's another story, where we started with, in the course of 8 years, from a $5,000 grant up to a business that was generating $800,000 a year, all through internally developed funds, working in a totally underdeveloped country with at market rates for no further inputs. So we started with the working with soil. As a child, I always lived in suburban. I'm a city kid. I'm not a farmer, but I'm not downtown like Manila or Cebu. I grew up in suburbia, but we always had a backyard garden. And my parents were products of the Depression. And so anything that could be utilized, could be repurposed, could be recycled. That I grew up with that as part of my personal and family culture. And I continue that to this day, sometimes to my Filipino wife's chagrin, but that's part of who I am and how I believe we should approach. Coming back to the agriculture, so there was always a compost pile. We always had a garden. We were always recycling, recomposting the weeds, pulling them young, and always utilizing whatever was available. Here, I first became involved directly with agriculture while attending an AgriLink meeting, AgriLink show down at PCC, or not at PC, yeah. And I encountered Mike Melendres back in the corner with a small booth, a 2x2 booth with oyster mushrooms. And he invited me up to his farm in Antipolo. And so I visited that. And it's a neat little farm, been in the family since before the First World War, 3.4 hectares in town on the side of a ridge. And I said, this would be a cute little organic farm. He says, it's all red clay up there. You got Antipolo red clay. So it's very hard, very non-porous. When it rains, the Barron guy would complain and they'd have to send staff out to shovel the clay off the road because it'd all wash off because water wouldn't absorb. It wasn't porous. And I said, Mike, you got trees, you're established here, you got infrastructure, you got a few greenhouses, you've got some water with a well. And it says, how about an organic farm? He says, yeah, but I don't have a market. He says, well, I says, you start finding a market and if you let me work on the dirt up here, I think we can make this go because this is pretty interesting stuff. So I found a vermi production operation down in Bahia Laguna and contacted them, and they brought in maybe 20 tons of vermicast. Started developing some contour plan beds along the contours of the slope, worked the vermicast in, and through the early DA program, got involved with a RU shredder and 15 kilos of earthworms. Subsequently found some coffee grounds down in places, of all places, Makati, and we started getting 20, 30, 40 tons of coffee grounds a week, composted them, and fed them to the worms. And so now we're in worm production, and we're getting soil put together in the places. He found a market with SM. He worked with them for about a year and a half. Worked very, very hard. In the meantime, I played in the dirt. So that's how we got started in this. Now, a shout out to Mike here. Although we are not working day to day together as we were then, it's probably almost 15 years ago, he has developed Melendrez Farm. You go into the supermarkets, you might find organic options. That's one of his brands. He's now reaching out and buying directly from the farmer co-ops, excuse me, and farmer associations in Highlands, up in Benguet, up in Nueva Vizcaya, Mountain Province, buying produce directly from them. So it's essentially farmer purchased, farm gate purchased, bringing it down here on his own refrigerated trucks and repackaging it and distributing it to Metro Manila. Currently, it's about 45 metric tons a month, and it should be in next quarter. His target is about 60 tons a month. All of this supports about 300 farmer families. So they're getting a better, reliable, above farm gate price for their goods. They're growing it chemical free and transitioning to agroforestry, but honest packaging and honestly grown produce. It takes time. So back to the biochar. Go ahead.
Could you please give us your phone number?
Oh, no problem.
So we have to get in touch with you.
Okay. It's 0917
yes
832
yes
9338.
Okay, I'll repeat that for the audience. Such a fascinating man from all over. Talk to him. 0917 832 9338. Please proceed.
That's correct. Thank you. I currently am living in, and this is coming from Angeles City. I live on the west side on a hillside on the west side of Clark, so I can watch the airplanes land and take off. Actually land. South end of the airfield. The biochar came from, I think, just reading and I'm an inveterate reader. I grew up with no television, no internet, no gadgets, and I had books. So I continue that to this day. And in reading some news item somewhere, I discovered biochar. And I looked into it around here, and Philmec was just starting to talk about carbonized rice hull. Most of this biochar activity has been in Europe, Australia, North America. The reason it's successful there is they have large biomass industries. In North America, there are now more trees than there were when Columbus landed. Although they cut down millions of trees a year, lumbering is, and they take care of it. To be sustainable, you've got to plant more trees, manage how you plant your trees, and harvest them responsibly. And they do that. But in making lumber, you get a lot of a lot of leftover. You get the trimmings from the tree branches. You get that in the forest. You get that in the lumber mill. You get the slash. And so primarily that's used for boiler fuel. Some of it's turned into paper in pulp mills, depending on when you're close to the forest harvest source. And you've got a very sophisticated bulk transportation network, whether it be in any of those places. They've got trains, they've got trucks, they've got roads, and they're good roads and they're good trains, and they know how to move lots of stuff long distances for very low cost. So that's where that started, and they've got a lot more technology and people scratching their heads. Now, this head scratching continues today to, I communicate regularly with an American who's in Vietnam, Thailand, South Australia. So there are many things going on in the world that are at the same level as we are here in the Philippines. Our challenge here is we cut down all the trees. We sold all the wood. We shipped them out. We didn't plant any trees. There's reforestation projects started, but they're all patchky here and there, a few million trees here, a few million trees there, and they're certainly still seedlings. And they're not necessarily maintained as a business. It's like, okay, we're going to plant some trees and take some pictures and get some news press. We're not to the point where we're developing forests and managing forests and sustainably sustaining the forest we don't have, because we cut them all down. So biomass as a feedstock here, we have to be a little more creative. Back up now, Biochar 101. Biochar is a little different than the uling, the charcoal that we buy to cook or do some inaha with. That is made backyard, primarily using whatever they can. I use it. It's good wood. But it restores quickly. One emerging feedstock source is bamboo, and that's only starting to be explored here. I think some down south. I haven't had any connection with that. I know there's a guy over in Zambales, and a friend which you probably know, Ed Manda, former LLDA chairman and is now president of the Philippine Bamboo Foundation, is a big champion. And he's only just now learning about biochar. I mean, in the last 6 months, we've been chatting about that. Bamboo is a very good, renewable, fast-growing biochar feedstock. Biochar is the difference between charcoal and biochar. One upside down, one right side up. Start a fire, drop the other drum over the top as a sleeve with a little bit of a chimney to allow the gas to come off. And that will also work. And when your chimney smoke changes from a heavy white to a bluish gray, you know you're done. You've got to quench it. Quenching is accomplished by either suffocating, such as a steel plate, or more ideally, some type of a water-based solution. You always want to have water handy and nearby from a safety standpoint. And all of your charcoal, when you're cooking, your wood is hot, and you're developing a carbon sponge. And I forget how many thousand times more surface area you get in a cubic centimeter of biochar. It's like an order of 10,000 times. Don't check me on this, fact check me, but it's a lot of surface area once you finished with properly quenched biochar, and then you started out. Basically, you're making a carbon sponge. The higher temperature cooking produces a clean, long-lasting charcoal, which is a biochar, which has been researched in the Amazon going back thousands of years, tierra preta, soil. And that's where the first concept of understanding of this, that the Amazon natives figured out eons ago, how to do this to improve and maintain their soil in the Amazon, which we're in the tropics. So we've got a similar situation. And we still have many small scale farmers that do like they did at slash and burn. They cut down some forest, they farm for a couple of years, the soil gets depleted, they cut down some more forest and burn some more and farm in a new piece of soil. And we're trying to educate people to stop doing this, to manage their soil, and make it better than what they started out with. Okay. Let me stop here for just a moment because I've rambled into the start of biochar. And before we get into the next step, let me take a breather and see if somebody has one or two questions from where we are to how far I've got so far. Go ahead.
Thanks,
Julius.
James. Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was mute earlier. Yeah, I was going over the list of the questions that I had prepared for this morning, and you've already answered quite a few. Basically, you've talked about feedstock materials that are available here in the Philippines. You've mentioned ipo-ipo and bamboo. You're talking about the difference that you've already talked about the differences between biochar and charcoal, especially in how you process it to get rid of certain volatile chemicals out of the organic matter moving forward. Um, and as well, you've started touching on biochar as a soil amendment. So hopefully that gives everybody a quick sort of um, starting point, I think, for biochar. Um, I think maybe where we might want to start some of the conversation when you talk about volatiles. So you're talking about charcoal versus biochar. Charcoal is something that people have been doing for a very, very, very long time. They cut down actually quite a bit, unfortunately, of the available trees in their area to be able to produce charcoal because people do buy charcoal. The process is rather time consuming and what you call this it's not pleasant because of a lot of the processes needed and the space needed to make it work. So definitely charcoal production is something that is has been done for a very long time, but has a lot of, I think, drawbacks there. So maybe I'd like to focus a little bit more on the differences between the two, because earlier while we were waiting for you to come in, I was sort of priming our audience to talk about it, and I had used the same term and talked about biochar as charcoal. So that seems to be a very important distinction between the two. Maybe we could focus on that a little bit more so that it's very clear what the difference between the two are.
Okay. Um, Actually, that is a lot of the difference. Let me touch back on open field agricultural burning.
Mhm.
Some of the technology that Ernie was talking about earlier is being introduced. We're getting these rice combines. We're getting, previously, we're doing hand harvesting in fields. Even in the last 20 years, I didn't see any combines when I got to the Philippines. I've been here more than 20 years. I got here in the early 2000s. And they would leave piles of rice straw and piles of IPA in the field and just burn them. And rice harvest time, all the rice harvesting areas, growing areas, would be covered with this smoke. Now, the rice harvesting machines, the combines, they shred. There's a mixed bag here. They shred the rice straw and spread it evenly across the field. Now, the rice being a grass needs nitrogen as part of its growing cycle and process. And we primarily, I don't know the numbers, and somebody else may have them. Ideally, we're primarily grow rice as a monocrop. It's rice, 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 or 3 seasons of rice where you've got irrigation and the weather's okay, or it's rice, rice and fallow, or maybe it's rice, rice and maybe peanuts, which is good. Upland farmers without irrigation are maybe doing dry field planting, and so they have an opportunity to plant something else given their situation. The rice straw contributes, that's on the field, left on the field and not burned, contributes to about 10% of the next crop's rice's nitrogen requirements. So that's good. It also contributes some structure to the soil in the fact that you've got biomass that's being decomposed. Now, that should be decomposed properly, and if you've got irrigation, you can do that. So you spread out, your rice is spread in the field, you flood the field again, you add a bioenzyme decomposer to that, let it sit 2 or 3 weeks, and then the beneficial bacteria digest that rice straw so it can go back and be incorporated into the soil and not lost. Burning turns it to ash. Ash is, of any produce, is alkaline. So adding chemical fertilizers produce acidic soils. How that chemistry works out, I've not studied it. Over the last, since World War II, when we have the Americans to thank for introducing chemical fertilizers, chemical fertilizers are easy. You want something to grow, you pour some chemical fertilizer with whatever the combination of NPK is on the field. You go to the store, you pledge your crop. I want to buy some fertilizer. I'm growing this. You can have so much of my harvest. I got utang with you, and away we go. Spread it on the field, carry a pouch, put it on your carabao, however you're doing this, and spread it on the field and watch stuff magically grow. However, that acidifies the field, and it kills the healthy soil over time. This biochar is leading to the secret. It's of being a tool that helps develop healthy soil. I am not so much about a biochar is one of the chapters in healthy soil, but I am more focused on developing healthy soil that you get through permaculture, you get through the soil cycle, you get through agroforestry, and reducing, minimizing, or totally eliminating the need for artificial chemicals, artificial fertilizers, herbicides. Boy, that's a bad story here. I'm gonna. We're still have unregulated use of glyphosate-based broad-spectrum fertilizers. And they even advertise it by spraying it on the roadside on public land and posting signs on the trees saying whatever, because the Dow Chemical and now Bayer, Dow developed this and now they sold it to Bayer. The patent has expired on it. So now it's available in the public domain. And it's being sold, originally it was sold as Roundup. And now it's being whatever brand. It's like you especially up in the mountains, highlands, you'll see signs nailed onto trees going down a public road. and everything's dead alongside the road, and there'll be signs nailed to the trees, the fences. It's like kill them dead, shoot them all, kill all the weeds, nothing alive, whatever the branding is. And the problem is this stuff washes out and goes down into the rivers and leaches through the farmland. I've seen it a couple of years ago on going up to Tarlock, up to La Union, the whole roadside, all of the grass, which is a fairly steep roadside, was sprayed with some glyphosate base, and everything, including the tree branches where the drift had spread, was dead. And below that are rice fields. Now, in Europe, this stuff's been banned for, I don't know, 10 or 20 years. And yet, and they don't use it. European farmers behave. They've got discipline. They sign on to these things. They understand. They're educated. And they're controlled. And yet, today, they're still finding above allowable DOH levels of glyphosate in breast milk. And they're not even using human breast milk. Women are feeding their babies, and they're still getting these elevated levels of glyphosate. And this is something that's supposed to be biodegradable and not and disappear. Well, it's not true. And so there's billions and billions of lawsuits going on about this. I'm trying to preach the gospel of don't use these herbicides. Farmers say, well, my goodness, how am I going to make any money if I'm competing with weeds in my soil? Well, if you plant correctly, you intercrop, and you have healthy soil and you take care of it, you can grossly minimize the amount of weeds that you've got. Incorporate young weeds into your compost, into your mulch, and you'll get all of those minerals that the weeds pull out of the soil back in. Weeds won't grow without sunshine, just like crop won't grow without sunshine. You're putting more crop down than you are weeds. So we want to make the soil healthy. Please don't use broad-based herbicides. Don't use herbicides at all. There's more to it than what they tell you. None of it's good. The second thing is pesticides. Farmers are panic when they see a bug on the leaf of their plants, or gardeners, and say, oh my gosh. It's just like snakes. Somebody sees a snake and say they shriek and they throw up their hands and they run, or they get a shovel and they attack it. Well, yes, we do have some nasty snakes here, a few vipers and a few cobras, but we've got a lot of good snakes. Back to bugs, snakes are not a farmer's problem, but it's the psychology. Bugs, only 20% of the total insect worldwide population eats your plants. Only 20%. 80% of those bugs eat the 20%. So it's already a 4-to-1 ratio of the good guys after the bad guys. However, if you put a pesticide on your field, on your crop, you're killing all the bugs because they're not selective. They're broad spectrum. And so you're killing the 4 good guys that you need to eat your 1 bad guy. And it's a vicious, self-defeating, you shoot yourself in the foot, shoot yourself in the head cycle. You're pouring more chemicals into the ground, which kills the beneficial insects and bacteria that live in the ground, which we're trying to promote. Plant distracting crops, plant sacrificial crops, plant even in large field crops. You the intercrop, you plant geraniums as an intercrop. You plant border crops. Rice farmers are taking their rice fields out to the absolute borders. Grain crops are doing the same thing. Rice is a grain, grass. Leave some of that border grow. Leave it alone. Don't cut it down. You're going to benefit more, that border, that wild space, the grass growing on your berms between the paddies. That's home for the good guys. don't kill them, and they'll eat your bugs. If you've got a problem with a brown rice stem borer, or you got problem in your cacao trees with a borer or mangoes, there are ways to deal with that beneficially biologically without putting chemicals on there. That'll be another presentation. We're not going to go there other than the fact that it does exist. The technology is here, and when you use it, you're increasing the viability and strength and health of your soil, and you're also increasing both the quantity and the quality of your crop. But the secret to all of this is the healthy soil. Now, carbonized rice hull is still a simple process. There's basically two technologies that are available here. I did my first CRH up in Santa Cruz, Zambales on a December afternoon. I started too late. I didn't fully understand what I was doing. I was solo. It got dark early. I was using a 20-liter steel drum with a little chimney that I made out of a wired together piece of tin. And I had a rice mill across the street, and so I had the rice stands. I had the rice IPA available, but I didn't have enough water. For those of you that have not ever made carbonized rice hull, you don't want to burn it down to ash because IPA is 35% silica. And silica is what we use to make glass. Silica does not decompose in our fields. Rice hull, people that use rice hull as they say they're putting it in their compost, they're using it as bedding. Rice hull is okay if you're putting it on the path. You got a muddy path between your fields. You can put it on there, it'll work down into the soil, but you're not going to grow anything on that. If you burn it down to ash and mix it in your soil, basically you're making concrete. And I don't know any plants other than the weeds that grow in the cracks between the sidewalks and they're not growing in the concrete, they're growing in the cracks. So IPA, raw IPA, does not make a good soil amendment. It does work as a porous bedding material for sprouting something, but please don't incorporate it into your potting mix, your spreading, into your bedding, or into your agricultural growing mix. Making carbonized rice hull does work. You are putting it back in the field, and if you do it correctly, you mentioned it in your notes, the target's about 10 tons per hectare, especially for rice. Now, that does not need to be introduced all at once. And you can do it, over a course of years. But before you put it into the field, biochar is sterile when it comes out of the fire and it's quenched. You've cooked it at 4, 5, 6, 700 degrees C. So there's absolutely nothing alive in there to your quenching material, and you'll inoculate that into your biochar. Use that to quench with. If you've got seawater, that's extraordinary because you've got all these minerals in the seawater. You got a little bit of salt from the sea, but that will essentially leach out in time. More benefits to the good guys. If you've got a seaweed soup or a seaweed tea that you can use, that's also very, very good to quench with. So the more things you've got in your quenching mixture, you'll inoculate that into the biochar as you quench it. Your biochar inoculation process, you can quench it. This is one option, one illustration. There are many ways to go about it.
Julius,
Yes.
for a while, what is the next step for us? For example, if you want to know more about biochar, you want to learn about it, what is the next step for us, the audience, if we are interested in pursuing this? What should we do? Is there a way to look into this, someone to call, etc.? Can you tell us what we can do as the next step? Because we're fascinated by this and we want to get into action. We want to know what we can do. What is your advice?
Okay, locally, again, your challenge is feedstock. Small scale, low cost, you can make carbonized rice hull. That all you need is a shovel of water, and you look at Philmec, and they've got various schemes for doing that. We don't have any large scale production here. It costs too much to haul stuff around. So your backyard, your small scale, you're doing things at the source. Go on YouTube. I'm learning things from YouTube. There are a multitude of different small scale devices, feedstocks, utilization. You need to start with dry feedstock. Even if you can use chicken manure with generally they'll use EPA, sometimes sawdust under a chicken coop, a chicken barn. Use dry feedstock. Don't use green wood. Wood's ideal. Bamboo is got great opportunities here. It grows fast. You've got it mature crop in 3 or 4 years. If you've got area where you're farming, plant some clumping bamboo. Generally, that'll be the giant bamboo at low altitude, and use that as a feedstock. Cut your dry. That you cut about a third of it, fourth of it a year at harvest. Go to YouTube. People are more comfortable with that. There's many short things on there. I look at that all the time. I'm still learning. So that's where you start to learn. Safety. If you're handling dry charcoal, at least have a KN95 mask, not just a lightweight folding accordion paper mask. Get a KN95. Serious producers that have dry charcoal, they're wearing essentially Scott air packs where they've got HEPA filter air run through a oilless compressor with a full head and shoulders helmet on and feeding fresh air in all the time. Microscopic dust will inhale into your lungs, and it's like it stays there forever, and it's like asbestos dust. It can ultimately kill you with lung cancer. So please, if you're working with any type of biochar, wet it down, moisten it. Now, storing it, if you store it damp, it can spontaneously combust. So don't store it in your bedroom, behind on the other side of your bedroom. Store it away from any area. You never know when you're going to get spontaneous combustion. So that's a caution. It's not happen often, but it does happen. So protect yourself. It personally, on your skin, it doesn't absorb through your skin and create a problem, but it's in your lungs through the small particles that are from dry biochar that you do have to worry about.
No, that's great. I just wanted to say that I've just looked up the phone number of Philmec. It's 0917 800 4526. 0917-800-4526. So actually, just go to YouTube, as James is suggesting, and call Vilmec, and of course, calls James, because he just gave you his phone number. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, thank you very much, James. It's been an exhaustive rundown of biochar so far. If you are here joining us this morning, please do stay on for our informal session, which is exclusive to members and donors of the foundation, where we'll continue our conversation with James moving in the next hour. But if you are joining us online 2 weeks later through our social media uploads, I'm afraid this is the extent of what you can get without being a member or donor of the foundation, with my sincerest apologies. So for now, let's please first flash our certificate of appreciation on screen for James. So the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with all of our members, individual, corporate, special partner, and senior special partner institutions, all present our certificate of appreciation to James Tomell for his invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for his commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker for our second online meeting this 27th day of 2020 of January 2026 in Pasig City, Philippines. Signed, Ernie Ordonez as our chair and myself as our president.